Welcome back to Core Conversations, a CoreLogic podcast. I am your host, May Claire Bolton Smith, and I'm the Senior Leader of Research and Content Strategy with CoreLogic. In this podcast, we'll have conversations with industry experts about key topics, from housing affordability to the impacts of natural disasters on property. It's June. Amidst the grilling, watermelon, and shaved ice, the home buying season has arrived. As we enter the busiest and most exciting and most stressful time in real estate, there's a lot of competing factors influencing the direction of the housing market. But the biggest one is sitting in the driver's seat: millennials. With this new digitized home buying environment vis a vis the pandemic and these young tech savvy buyers flooding the market, looking to buy homes and starting families, the fundamentals of finding the dream home are vastly different today than they have ever been before. So, to talk about this evolution today, we're excited to have Kevin Green, Senior Leader of Home Visit by CoreLogic, and Craig Northrup, Founder and CEO of Northrup Realty, today to talk about this. So, Kevin and Craig, welcome to Core Conversations.
Fantastic. Glad to be here.
Thank you for including me.
Awesome. So, to get us started today, why don't each of you tell our listeners a little bit about your background? Craig, why don't we start with you?
Certainly. Well, I've been doing this business for 35 years. I started as an individual agent, one of the youngest to actually do $1 billion in a career.
Wow.
And then I moved into, thank you. And then I moved into opening a team with my wife called the Craig Northrup team. And our goal was to ultimately be number one in the nation there. That, if you're going to do it anyway, why not be the best? So we started a team and grew to number one in the nation 3 times. And I call it reach one, teach one. Once you get to the levels where you want to go, then you want to start teaching, giving back to the business that gave you so much. And so we started a brokerage called Northrup Realty, which is a hybrid brokerage because it's a full service brokerage, which is run similar like a team, but you BYOB, bring your own brand. You are your own agent, all that, but we have all the systems and everything that got us to number one in the nation. We kept all the systems, including Home Visit, which we'll talk about there, and some of these other systems that we've put in place so that we can actually streamline the systems, and our agents, who are relationship oriented agents, can just focus on the clients. And so that, we can do, I think we're doing this week, like almost 70 listings, but that client only feels like they're the only one. And that was really one of the key processes for us, was to be able to scale it so that you're able to scale it and still service it. And we are and have been number one in the nation for Zillow 5-star Zillow reviews, because we're very passionate about our clients and their experience with Northrup Realty.
Wow, that's fantastic. And your passion definitely shows, Craig. So we're thrilled to have you be here as part of our conversation. So Kevin, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, I've been in the real estate industry for about 17 years. I started off as an agent broker and of a discount brokerage in Jacksonville, Florida, and then got onto the technology side with Fidelity National Financial and the national portal that they were doing of cyber homes. Went into a management buyout with Real Estate Digital, really focusing on the MLS side of things, multiple listing service side of things, and then came over here to CoreLogic about 5 years ago, originally as the strategic partnership and new business initiatives for the Real Estate Solutions Group. And now I'm heading the business unit that is Home Visit.
Fantastic. You said cyber homes. What's a cyber home? You got my attention.
Cyber Home was a national portal that was going to compete with Zillow about 12 years ago, offering AVMs and direct leads back to agents and brokers. But the original crash changed things and changed a lot of directions for a number of people, as now a new change with pandemic is going to cause some more change as far as how people buy and sell homes.
That sounds so great. It's exciting stuff. I am also going to catch you guys on some acronyms. You did say AVM. Let's just define that quickly before we jump in.
Automated Valuation Model.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's dive into things. I think most people are familiar with the general home buying and selling process, whether they've bought a home or not. But we've alluded to this a couple of times in this podcast, but the home buying process can definitely be cumbersome. But we're currently in this digital age and so much has changed. When we look at the digitization of real estate, how would we compare where we are now versus 10, 20, or even 30 years ago for both real estate agents and from the buyer's perspective?
Well, I mean, I think for the digital world of growth, I'm going to turn that over to Kevin. But from the real estate side of it, one of the things that we got introduced to, I don't know, let's see, about 7 years ago through Home Visit actually was called Matterport. And Matterport is a 3D model where you actually can actually feel like you're walking through someone's home. We've actually this year sold 52 homes cash as is, and the buyer never even walked in the home with the technology that is provided through Home Visit of Matterport. And Matterport is, like you said, you can do all kinds of amazing things. And then you add the floor plans and all of that. And it's so interactive. And that really has helped us, to be honest, not only get through COVID, which was huge because, people didn't have to leave their couches, and then ultimately that's a big game changer. I mean, my mother, when you talk about real estate agents in general, first of all, my mother had to use a payphone to close a client. Now it costs a lot of 10 cents back then. So you had to close faster and shut up sales agents, and listen more, right? Well, that's the joke then, right? But, it's evolutionized over to, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all these great new systems and social medias and all of that. And, we really just had to be good customer service. You had to market. My mother had to use print to get her word out because that was pretty much it. And you had to write incredible descriptions of houses so people would engage in them. They actually would pick up real estate books just to read what she would say next. That was really her motto. And then really, to be honest, Facebook's a new version of what she did way back. If you think about it, everything is a storyboard for it. So you got into the Facebook, and that was a new era of real estate. Then you get into the Matterports and all the technology that connects the consumer with the product, right? So they're much more engaged, and that's why 90% of the consumers start on the internet now before they even start their search, with a real estate agent, because there's so much of that done so well, but it's so important. And I'm going to flip this back to Kevin in 1 second and say photography is so important, because that's their first impression, right? That fusion photography, that 3D, and then take it right on to Matterport. That has changed way over time, and we've been blessed to grow that with Home Visit. And I'll let Kevin kind of take it from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, Craig, because 30 years ago, as you mentioned, what's changed? I mean, back then it was right with the beginning of a digitized MLS. You still had to have a book to find out what was on the marketplace, and now that, as Craig mentions, they're being promoted and put up into Realtor.com, Zillow, broker portals, etc., where agents can have the ability to connect with consumers. But as Craig mentioned, consumers are going there first. And so they're getting an opportunity to walk through a home, through a 3D plan and being able to do that, or see a floor plan, or they're wanting more photos to see if they want to go physically see that home. Homes that they don't get a lot of pictures or don't get a lot of feel for, they might not cross that off that list, and they never got a shot. And so more visuals, more video, more aerial. We've seen video up 125% in the last 18 months.
Wow.
And the interesting thing with video is that typically, people are only stay on for only 26 seconds. They want to get that real quick. They want to see what's going on there. Is this a home I want to go see? I'm going to call Craig and ask him to go see this home because I've gotten to see the features and functionality of it. We've seen the 3D, as Craig mentioned, with Matterport that we have as our partner. We've seen 3D up 83% in the last 18 months. And we've also seen agents do some really creative things with that, where being able to do something like while your listeners can't see us, we can see each other, of actually physically walking somebody through a home through a Zoom utilizing 3D. And so they can still interact with the consumer, still show them the features of the house, the crown molding, the great appliances, etc., without ever leaving their office, and the consumer never leaving their couch. So it's really, really neat to see how things are going.
It's amazing. And I was just reflecting, going back when I first started, we were using Kodak and putting the picture on the front of the brochure with tape. That was our brochure way back. Imagine that. I mean, it's just amazing how digitized and everything in the process is. We actually, working with Home Visit, we actually have the photographers coming out literally on like a Monday or Tuesday and we have everything to consumers by Friday. All the Matterports, everything done. We have streamlined the system so beautifully. Like I said earlier, every client feels like they're the only one because they're getting that incredible customer service.
And if I can add one more thing, Craig, it was funny. I read earlier this week from Inman News, they were talking about the ability for this digital is also reducing the carbon footprint. So, I mean, there is no more as far as getting in a car and driving somebody around for 4 hours, as far as showing that you're narrowing that search down. Eventually, a lot of people do want to go see the home they're going to spend thousands of dollars on, their biggest purchase. But we're narrowing the process down. We're reducing carbon footprint. We're reducing people's time and effort that is out there and making things a little bit easier.
It's so great. And I think, I think of this concept, it was only a few years ago that we bought our first home, and I would have loved to have bought my home from the couch and not have to, we must have gone out and looked at 150 homes.
So how did you find your agent?
We found our agent at an open house. We would go around every weekend looking at open houses, and we met this agent that we really loved, and we connected with him, and he lived in the neighborhood, and he became our agent, and we trusted him, and he was fantastic. He found us our home. So
I assume this audience is some agents, and I say this: open houses work.
Yeah.
The people that say open houses don't work, don't want to work on Sundays.
Yeah, no, it definitely did work. It worked for him. It worked for us. So, but I think of, going from Kodak photography to 3D tours, we've come a long way. And that's especially important for a younger generation. And that's kind of where I want to turn now. I know that Dr. Frank Notaft and the Office of the Chief Economist here at CoreLogic have done a lot of really great research about general differences in home buying behavior and patterns. And one really interesting little nugget is that the peak home buying age is 33 years old. And the largest cohort of millennials is now approaching this peak. So when we think of the millennial generation and the expectations that this younger generation has, how has the millennial generation impacted the way people are buying homes?
Well, it's interesting. We're all catered to instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
So they want it now. They want it now. And they make this freaking commercial. They want it now, right? And they say that, and it's actually very relevant, because what happens is when they want to buy something, they first of all want to be able to go to the internet and find what they want, right? They don't want to go through a lot of hassle. They don't want to give their information because they know they're going to get solicited. So by the way, they just want streamlined. They want streamlined. They want it then. And then when they call that agent, they want response. They want response because their call is important. They want to feel important. They're buying the biggest purchase in their life important. They want to feel it. And they want that experience from start to finish to be seamless. And I tell you, they're probably more picky than the other generations. I tell you, they are, because they're so digitized in their processes that everything coming to them so fast and so precise that they want their system and buying the same way. And they really are and have been. And they're exciting. It's fun to watch the excitement of somebody get their first house. I just did it yesterday to somebody they're a little bit even older than your normal millennial age you were mentioning, but the excitement of just buying that house and just loving their first house. And it was you can't replace that feeling. You really can't. And they loved it because they wanted professionalism. They wanted somebody that knew the area, because all of our agents live in the areas they service. They wanted a realtor resource because they wanted to know what everything was, doctors, dentists, they want all that. And so they want a friend, not an agent.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And
No,
I
it
think
definitely
that's
makes
what
sense.
millennials are really looking for now.
Yeah.
They want a friend, and they want somebody to not sell them. They don't want salesy. And I think you're seeing that a lot more millennials. And I think we've found that niche, and we love it because they start the home buying process. Biggest investment you're ever going to make, you make the most money in real estate. It's a great way to start. And a lot of millennials have made a lot of money with buying their first home. One of the philosophies we have in North of Realty is this: we want a client for life, not a client for one home. And so our goal is to go through every generation you are in with, right? So each part of the section, we want to be part and be relevant in each part. And so I think it's interesting to now analyze that, because so many people say focus on one group. where I think it's important to be able to associate and help every group.
Kevin, anything you would like to add to that one?
No, I mean, the biggest thing I would like to add is Craig is right. I've always thought that you're having a friend, and consumers are looking for someone to hold their hand as they get through this biggest purchase that they do. And the process is very cumbersome, from mortgage to title and understanding all the differences, remembering all of that. And then 7 years down the road, with the average time they're going to be looking for a larger home, or there's life changes that happen, they're wanting to go back to that person to do that. And so being able to do that and having the tools to help them through that is very important. And, we here at Home Visit try to help facilitate that and provide those tools to help them get through it.
And they're big on brand. I got to say that brand is big for, the millennials.
This generation. Yeah. So I'm glad you went there, Kevin, because I want to dive in a little bit more into this, the pandemic really expedited this move towards digital. And I think if we look towards the present and the future, what things do you think will persist? What will go away? And do we think, these digital trends that we've moved towards, the digitization of many of these tools, are these here to stay, or are they just ebbs and flows that go along with the market?
I think I'll start and let Craig kind of go, because he uses a lot of the tools there. I think, as mentioned before previously, you had the books, and people had to come to the real estate office to see everything. And then we digitized it and put it out there. And there's that saying that the toothpaste is already out of the bottle. And the consumers are now have access to all of this data. They have the ability to see the floor plans. They have the ability to walk through a home virtually. They have the ability to look and see how much, what the taxes have been for the home and the historical in there, and being able to do a lot of the analysis. But it's how do they bring all of that stuff together? And that's where the real estate agent comes in, of being able to craft that, walk them through the deal, etc. And so you have that piece of the deal of what we help provide. But then as far as the agent is concerned, I think, as Craig just mentioned, and I'm going to probably tee him up really well, as he just said, that the people want brand. They like the brand and what goes on. Yeah. And how do they create and the trust of that brand? And so when you talk about other marketing tools like postcards, etc., that have been there, we've seen brokerages that embrace and do and have that have definitely been very successful, and keep that connection through that first home buying experience to the second home buying experience and onward.
Yes, it's a touch. And, and like you said, with the brand is that you got to trust the brand's been around for many, many years. And I think people have to see it, though. You can't be secret about it, right? One of the things that you got to do is, with the digital age, is be seen. And you got to be, I always say, treat every event like the Super Bowl. Like every event should be exciting, right? You want to look forward to it. So anything you should do should be like the thing. If it's the open house, it's the best open house in the world. Like when they come see me, I said, he goes, wow, you're here? I said, yeah, because it's the best open house today. Welcome. It's that kind of excitement that digital can only go so far. And that's why real estate is still very much humanistic, right? Mm-hmm. You got to have that humanistic touch, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's about the soul, and technology can't get you soul, right? So soul sells, and that's important. And the knowledge of your areas builds trust, and the brand and the consistency of seeing that brand through different marketing portals and TV and all that stuff is what people trust. And I think you got to have that. Make sure that they're full time. Make sure that they're if you're listing a house, make sure they're marketing. Most agents do what I call 3 Ps. They put up a sign, they put in less, and they pray. That's the challenge of some of our markets.
So I guess from the agent's perspective, Craig, how do you stay relevant in today's market? I mean, I love that you went, like, it's all about the soul. It's about the passion. You clearly have that passion. But I think, keeping up with the demands of the generation and the current trends, how is it difficult? Like, how do you stay relevant?
I mean, relevance is a great question. First of all, do something, right? We all talk about things, do something, right? And then what I try to do is add humor to it, because I try to hit different audiences, right? Because to Kevin's point, he gave a great quote about video, right? Doing video is great, but guess what? It's subpar if you just do the same everyone else does, right? So you got to do something to look forward to it. Like I'll jump in a pool with a suit on. What the heck, right? Why not, right? But guess what? They talk about it. Matter of fact, the buyer bought the house because I jumped in it with the suit. They remember that. But that's be memorable is my first answer, right? Be memorable. Find ways to be memorable, and then most importantly, get out there. Authentic is also another very key about being relevant. Authentic, but again, there's 3 ways to really, I say, close a sale in this environment. Okay, first you got to care, right? You got to care about the client. You got to care about what you do and care about everyone around you. 2, you got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. You can't just run one ad and put out an ad and think it's going to work. You got to be consistent in ads. They got to see it. You don't build brand by one commercial or by one postcard. You do it by consistency. And last and most importantly is what's lacking in a lot of the real estate agents is confidence. You got to have confidence in what you do. You see, if you have the 3 C's, care, consistency, and confidence, and if you lose the C in close, you lose the sale. Okay, so ultimately at the end of the day, it's important that these 3 elements are there. And a lot of it has to do with the digital age. A lot of it has to do with, doing more. I mean, you guys can do so much. Social media is free, but we don't do enough of it in the real estate marketplace. I don't get it. Like I had to pay for everything I did. Well, here you go. You got a free element and you're still not utilizing it more. Yeah, don't understand.
No, you clearly have those 4 C's, and it's very clear, Craig, why you have been so successful in your career. And again, really glad to have your perspective here on our podcast. So, Kevin, I want to switch gears a little bit, and we've just briefly mentioned home visit, touched on it through a couple of the questions. But when you think about innovations in this space, and here at CoreLogic, we're really trying to push the needle forward with everything that we're doing in property. Agents, we want to try agents help stay relevant to find success in today's hyper-competitive environment. And what kind of things are we doing here at CoreLogic? Can you talk about?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why CoreLogic acquired and is growing home visit from just not where Craig is located in the Mid-Atlantic, but making it national and relevant, and making things easier for the agent to purchase and provide quality services like drone service, making sure that you have homes that have multi-exposure images so that you can see and look at that home in the best light. You're able to see through windows. You're able to really, truly see what the home looks like. We partner with people like Matterport, as Craig says, one of the leading providers of 3D in there, and being able to have that so we can safely and virtually walk a customer or a consumer, through a home, and being able to do that. We have high quality print and great stuff so that we can do the traditional points that, as Craig mentioned, that you need to be touching consumers on a regular basis, and how do you do that and through that. And we've always actually had the tools that help them set that up through some of our multiple listing service platform, previously known as Matrix and Realist. We may want to make it easier for the agent and within their workflow to be able to do that. And so whether or not it's when they're at the start of a listing or whether they've gotten the listing in, to make things easier for an agent to upload images and video and send them out. Provide them in a single property website that's both branded and unbranded for the agent, that allows them to look on their phones, be able to show and share in social media, as Craig said, one of the free and best platforms to do it, and have multiple touch points for those agents. And we're trying to do that within the agent's workflow, whether or not they're doing it through the MLS or through their broker. We want to make it easier for the agent to be able to provide these tools for them to showcase the homes that they get from their consumers.
That's great. Just being a part of this whole process and helping move things forward. So this has been fun. I'm really loving chatting with both of you. And I think just to kind of wrap up today, many of these podcasts, we like to say, if you were to look into your crystal ball and we look towards the future, I was thinking, our virtual tour is a way of the past, but I know, Craig, you said open houses work. So open houses, virtual tours are a little bit different, but do you think, are we going to move more towards this buying a house from your couch and everything being virtual with virtual tours? Or will we ever go back to the way it was before and it be mostly in person? So what do you think? So all the way from Kodak to 3D, where do you think we're going?
Well, I think you never lose the soul of what we are. So I think humanistic is still important. I think majority of people have to touch and feel what they want to buy, right? So that even though the goal of all the digital world and all these things we already talked about today is to drive the consumer to your product, but to sell your product has to be somebody to care as much about what your needs are as you would, and that care about being your client for life, I call it. So that you're the realtor resource and you're going to take good care of them. And, all the things that we literally know a house, I could rebuild a house in my mind today that I can help a client, a new one, especially a first-time home buyer. What about changing furnace filters? What about all the logistics of a home that we're just basically going, here, good luck, right? That's what digital does. Here, buy it, good luck. You can buy it from Amazon and it'll show up at your doorstep. But guess what? You may need somebody to help you walk through it. You may need somebody to help you guide you how to operate things and put some of that. I don't think ever real estate will change from the humanistic side because it's too valuable an asset to allow a computer to buy your house, to be honest.
I completely agree. I mean, they always say real estate is local. I got a wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs, and I want to know where I'm going to walk my dogs and where my children are going to go to school and how are they going to get there and what route are they going to take and what's going on. And I think it's really important to understand what the neighborhood is and hear from the people that live in the neighborhood and have lived there and grown up there and being able to. And so there is always going to be that element. I think the big thing is the tool, these virtual tools are going to help narrow people's either A, narrow what they want to go see, or B, expand what they want to see, because they're actually going to see something more like, I really want to go see that house. I want to see that because I've seen these features and functionality and being able to do that. And how does that fit in with me and my lifestyle? So it's just an added tool to help kind of hone in and fine tune it. But ultimately, I don't disagree with Craig, as I've bought and sold 7 homes in multiple states and how this goes. And wow. You need to go find out what that neighborhood is, and that's where you're going to lay your head at night, and that's where you're going to have your family and make sure that they're safe and you grow there. So I think you're ultimately always going to go there majority of the time. I think some, unless you're using it as an investment property or you already know the neighborhood and you're just getting a second property, et cetera, there are always exceptions. But I would say 80% of the time, if not more, someone's going to plant their feet there before they sign a contract.
So overall, technology helps a lot, but human always wins. So
yes.
Kevin and Craig, thank you so much for joining me today on Core Conversations, a CoreLogic podcast. It's been great to have you both here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Great. So for more information on the property market and the housing economy, please visit corelogic.com/intelligence. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode. Please remember to leave us a review and let us know your thoughts, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to be notified when new episodes are released. And thanks to the team for helping bring this podcast to life. Producer Ria Tarakia, editor and sound engineer Romeo Roman, and social media guru Mike Wojcik. Tune in next time for another Core Conversation.